Welcome to Labor Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Abrantes, Assistant Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, the Carpenters Union.
And I'm Cyndie Williams, Executive Director of the CCT. Together as your co-hosts, we'll explore the world of organized labor, bringing you behind-the-scenes stories and insights from inspiring union leaders, dedicated partners, and community change makers. In each episode, we dive into authentic conversation to uncover what unions are really about beyond the headlines and the myths.
Whether you're new to the movement or a union ally, our conversation, showcasing diverse voices and real-life stories, will explore union hurdles, triumphs, labor's rich history, its role in workforce development, all while shedding light on how unions create lasting change and foster economic growth and creating generational wealth.
Join us as we build a broader coalition, elevate future generations, and showcase how unions contribute to creating a positive cultural legacy.
Tune in, get informed, and find out how organized labor is making a difference.
Today, we're joined by Rob Smith, who is a seasoned union carpenter with over 30 years in the industry and has proudly served as a foreman, general foreman, and project superintendent. In 2006, Rob joined the Philadelphia Joint Apprenticeship Committee as a carpentry instructor, transitioning into education and workforce development. In partnership with GBCA, he founded the Carpenters Apprentice Ready Program and now serves as the first executive director of the Eastern Atlantic States Carpenters Technical Centers. Under his leadership, the EAS CTC has expanded across 6 states and the District of Columbia, providing debt-free education to thousands of apprentices and journey persons. Welcome, Rob.
Good morning, Cyndie. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here in the studio. That's quite the story, quite the journey, from the job to the classroom to executive leadership. I guess one of the questions I would have is, what drew you to carpentry and how did you evolve from the field into a mentorship and education and leadership role?
Well, yeah, thank you for having me today. I appreciate being here and the opportunity to talk to both of you. I just really, I want to say it's my family. I would first, with the carpentry question, I think it's my dad. My dad's been in for over 50 plus years, been retired and everything now for a few years. But when I was 4 years old, he was putting an addition on the house, and I got a picture of me with a hammer and a nail apron on, helping him, in the window and framing the window and driving a nail. But on the education side, my mom was a retired preschool teacher. And my wife's a teacher, my sister's a teacher. So it's kind of a blend of all things within the family. Plus, I was a coach as well. So I think I played ice hockey, coached, was a captain of my high school team, played junior hockey, and then went on to coach my old high school. And kind of gravitated towards that mentorship, that relating to high school age kids and students, and so it's kind of like a bringing things together full circle.
A hybrid of life experiences.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
It's amazing how many things you come across in your career, and it all kind of comes together and blends to make you the leader that you are in your later on in life. You don't
realize it. I have 2 boys in college now, but also talking to some of the high school kids, it's like you don't know. Like the hardest question I think, if I look back and reflect back, is what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Well, you don't know at that point in time. You may know and you may not know, but it's just your life experience absolutely takes you. It's amazing to look back.
Yeah.
Sure. Just all of the footprint that you cover, you're in a 6-state region, including DC. As executive director, overseeing all of the schools, what are your major challenges or vital things that you need to think about in order to run your programs efficiently?
Well, it's always follow the money, right? It's always the budget first. But it's also making sure that our contractors, our members, invest in our training program. So I take that responsibility very seriously. And we want to make sure that we're evolving with the industry, making sure that the students are getting everything that they can get while they're in our schools and maximizing their time and not wasting time, and making sure that on the other end that the contractors are realizing the benefit of a qualified workforce when they come out. With the merger, that was probably one of the more challenging parts of my career over the last year, as we went through the training fund mergers over the last 2 years, really, with the training fund mergers from Philadelphia and New Jersey, and then the DC region West Virginia region and Pittsburgh region and Pennsylvania. But it's also now continuing after the merger is completed. Now it's also having quality people working with you. And you're only as good as the sum of its parts, right? So it's, I have great directors, coordinators, and instructors and admin staff, not in that order, but everybody just really is really bought in, I feel, to what we're doing.
Yeah, we have a large audience of people listening, so maybe just explain, go a little bit deeper into what was the reason behind the merger and how you're looking to unify the apprenticeship training.
So number one was in all areas. I mean, I cover the states that Cyndie had mentioned earlier, and all those training locations, our contractors can go to any one of those locations. What we were finding was there was different training going on in all the areas, and the goal of the merger is to kind of, bring training up together, kind of a rising tide lifts all boats concept, to say that, we can all grow together. We would go out to Las Vegas to our international training center. We share ideas once a year as a district. But it was there we were sharing ideas. Now we can actually collaborate, work, and make the improvements. It becomes a lot easier, that you can make those improvements, be it efficiencies, efficiencies of scale or, with cost, or even curriculum sharing and creation, and resources to share as well. So
yeah. One of the biggest things that, us in the industry have been talking about forever in terms of value is debt-free education. But we've evolved just from debt-free education now to higher education, right? And I think in the world we're living in now, where people are starting to pivot back to technical studies, we also don't want to give away that aspect of higher education because it's important. And I think we bring a hybrid of both of those together. Can you talk a little bit about, outside of debt-free education, how we're matriculating credits, we have articulation agreements with universities, and how we've evolved into something greater than just technical studies?
Yeah, I think number one, as we talk about where our credit programs and how we've matriculated and or how we're moving forward, I think the important thing is we started off, we had different collegiate consortiums, and they would give credits, and they would give 20 credits or 25 credits to each program. We went down the road a few years back to say we wanted to push the envelope a little bit. We had conversations with contractors, had conversations with members. We had retiring members. We had members that were retiring, and that left a gap in the workforce. But then you have kids that come out of college, maybe just with a construction management focus. And we were seeing those people kind of moving into some positions, and they weren't necessarily the most qualified just because they went to college. But we wanted to put the full picture together. So going from my career experience and other people's career experiences, we're going through an apprenticeship program, graduating from that apprenticeship program, and then going forward with college really supports the full person, right? So it's you're looking at what the contractor's getting. The contractor's getting somebody that knows how long it takes to frame a wall or to put a ceiling or hang a door in a building, but also now they have the opportunity, and I'll go into it with having a construction management piece connected to their registered apprenticeship program.
So do you think that's made our apprentices more marketable in the industry, because now they have journeyman certification, apprentice training, and the ability to either have an associate's degree or bachelor's degree? And I guess my question would be, when they come out of the apprentice program, how many credits can they actually matriculate if they chose to go to a higher education institution?
So right now, it's a great question, Anthony. Right now we have 3 higher education partners. We have Rowan University, we have College Unbound, and we have Thomas Edison University. We're looking to grow those partnerships. Within each MOU, with each university, the credits are a little different.
Okay.
But they average about 50 to 70 credits towards a bachelor's degree in construction management or organizational leadership, depending on what the MOU states. However, we have conversations with Slippery Rock University, Penn State. We're looking to talk to West Virginia now that our merger has taken place and we're expanding. And University of Maryland is also on the board as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah, your versatility and having the outreach to different colleges is so very important. And so many of these community colleges around our footprint are heavily involved in workforce development. It's so important for us to be open-minded about how we approach workforce, right? Absolutely. And how we connect to schools. So, I just want to make sure that everyone out there knows that we have the ability to have conversations to make workforce happen. So I think you've been such an integral part of that and that initiative, those efforts, and sometimes they're piece by piece.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. We've been on a ton of phone calls together just making things happen.
Yep.
And I thank you for that.
Thank you, Cyndie. And it's a team effort, right? So it's not just, the colleges that I spoke about. We have those, as you described, partners in community college world. And that's great, because anything that we can do to further education of our members and contractors, any partnership is a benefit to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So technology and construction don't always go hand in hand in people's minds, but they should. I know you're using super innovative ways to connect to young folks that are in a tech-driven world. Can you expand a little bit about how you're doing that? What's your approach?
So one of the things we started probably about 5 years ago, right after the pandemic, I would say, was starting to incorporate virtual reality training into our curriculum. We have worked with a company that's done a great job in kind of dovetailing, using a carpenter term, right? Like into our curriculum, their concepts, and working with us to make sure that we bring classes like OSHA 30 to life for a new generation, or just any kind of safety that's tough to replicate in a classroom environment or in a shop environment. One of our things that we do is outreach, and when we do outreach to high schools or middle schools, you look at the virtual reality that can go into one of those trade schools, and it's like, moth to a flame. They just, everybody just flocks right to it. So it's exactly the kind of excitement that we're trying to generate, but it also helps keep our students engaged and put them in a situation being, 100 feet up in the air on a scaffold before they're actually 100 feet off the ground. So I think that's pretty cool, and that's one of the things that's newer. Just this year, our international training fund in Las Vegas, the Carpenters International Training Fund, publishes all of our curriculum for a lot of our classes, and our instructors go out there for trainers. For years and years and years, and Cyndie, you and I, when we were teaching, we had to go out there, get our trainer, come back with a big book and PowerPoint. Now they're starting to go the route of LMS, so we have a learning management system, which is wonderful. All the curriculum is online and up to date, and we have iPads now being used in all the classrooms, which is tremendous for every apprentice. We just made that purchase in early 25.
That's great.
Besides
So they have the
that,
ability to do it anywhere, really, because they're online, they're working their platforms technology-wise.
Exactly, and the more comfortable that everybody's comfortable with it, usually with an iPad, but you mentioned I was a superintendent, and I went back out in the field in 2016, 2017, and the difference from when I was teaching in 2006 and when I came out of the field in 2006 to when I went back 10 years later was night and day. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of an eye-opener, which was great, because I was using an iPad in the field. All the prints were on an iPad, all the construction drawings, documents, everything's there. So we then are taking that very seriously and making sure that we're training the next generation of leadership on the job sites to incorporate that on the projects.
Sure.
Yeah.
Going back real quick about the virtual reality sets,
Yeah.
I remember when I was being interviewed as an apprentice potentially coming in, in the interview they ask you, can you climb a ladder? And who's going to say no? Who's going to say, no, I can't climb a ladder, I don't want to be hired, right? But you actually put this virtual set on someone, and you see how they react in the scaffold setting or standing on a beam,
Yeah.
and you can see, for me, my palms were sweating,
Yeah.
my hand,
Absolutely.
it's literally like you're there.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild,
Yeah.
but you're able to allow them to understand, can I really do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way. Muscle memory, it starts to get incorporated and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. We're also doing robotic total station training, which helps with layouts of buildings and placement for anchor bolts and all the stuff that we do for construction. So that's something, and the millwrights are using it. One of our trades, besides carpenters, is a millwright, and they're using it for conveyor layout in the airports and a lot of the infrastructure projects that we work on. So
You mentioned, technology and helping teach young folks about the industry. One of the things that you co-founded and Cyndie had mentioned was the Carpenter Apprentice Ready Program, CARP, and that's been really impactful, I think, for what we've been trying to do intentionally, right, with the recruiting. So what inspired that, and how have you think that's been made an impact on the industry?
So I used to do grants back at the Philadelphia school, and one of the grants that came across my desk was something for workforce development and how we can be involved in workforce development. Thinking back to the story I started out with, working with my dad, right, at 4 years old, doing decks at my grandparents' house or whatever. My grandfather was a union bricklayer. My uncle's a union carpenter. So we would have Sunday dinners, right? The conversation was all union construction. It was all, that's how I came up. What got me thinking was, well, if we have to find a new generation of workers, how can I bring that kitchen table? How can I bring that Sunday dinner kind of philosophy to a new generation of workers? And that's what we did with the CARP program. It gets people that were never introduced, didn't have the benefit that I had of, it was like eating and drinking, it was commonplace. Didn't have that start that I had and that indenturement into the union labor to introduce it to somebody else, to explain, what we did. I would see apprentices come in or new apprentices come into Philadelphia when I was there, and they'd be like, what are you here for? And they're like, I guess carpenter. I don't know, somebody told me to be a carpenter. But they had no prior knowledge. And then on the application, there was millwright, floor layer, pile driver. Like, they had no idea about any of the other trades. So the CARP program really grew holistically to introduce everybody to the other trades under the UBC umbrella too that we also do, and a whole new generation of workers, as we look to meet the needs that are out there.
And from what I've heard, the success rate in terms of retention is a lot higher for folks that go through CARP, because now they've been exposed to all different crafts, what the expectations are, the industry demands, and that they're better apprentices for it.
Yeah, well, and that's what we've seen, right?
Yeah.
And that's which is it's great. We actually have 2 folks that volunteered after they graduated the CARP program to help with other cohorts, and now they are leadership in the field for some of our larger general contractors, and we also hired them as a part-time instructor, so they don't have to volunteer anymore, and we paid them, and they're coming back as a part-time CARP instructor. So it's no better testament to a program than to have people that went through it, and to come back and want to be a part of it.
And it started in Philly, and now it's in every jurisdiction of our council.
Yes, ESG Sproul and the board for the council, asked me if I could get it going in all the other areas. It was one of the charges we had to expand our pre-apprenticeship program, and it's rolling in Pittsburgh, and doing great things in Pittsburgh, down in the DC market. It's also thriving there, and in New Jersey as well. So
It's also such a great opportunity to connect back to the cities and show them where we're plugging in to help with economically challenged and some of the folks that just need a lift in the cities. So it's been a wonderful starting of a conversation for us to have that connection to help.
Yeah, and you see some of the school districts that may have gotten away from trade programs in schools. And for somebody to come out of high school and never read a tape measure, it kind of starts to get that conversation going again, right?
Yeah.
I've went with you, Cyndie, and talked to high school counselors and stuff like that, and just put it out there. And once they hear what we're doing, I think they really get excited about it, and opens that door up to people in the community, to schools that want to place their kids in the schools, and they're looking for their kids to, if they're not going to college, to maybe they can get college and a trade apprenticeship under their belt.
Sure. Mentorship is such an incredible piece to that story for CARP. The instructors, they really take that time to outreach, to do the soft skills with them, and really just allow them that space to grow into the role, and then eventually become apprentices. Thinking back on your career and just us in our careers throughout the years, and the mentorship piece is so critical for us to have success. What is a story of a mentor that kind of worked you through in your career, and maybe you could tell us a little story there?
I thought about this, and it's you think about who is that one person, and I could say my father, and he did, but he wouldn't work with me my first 4 years of my apprenticeship either. He said, go learn your own way, because I did enough with him, right? So which was the best thing he could have did, because what it did was it made me go out there and make my own name for myself. It made me hustle, and the brotherhood and sisterhood, if you go out there and show that effort, everybody on that job site, if I look back, I'm thinking of the first person I worked with. I'm thinking of, was it getting involved in the union? And I can think of 3 business reps or a couple organizers that kind of mentored me. I could think of just so many people that have made your career in coaching, like somebody who I coached with, or somebody that coached me. Like in your career, there's so many people that have that part. It's not one mentor.
It takes a village.
It's a village.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Yeah. And I just don't know if I could, dial in on one solid person. I think I look back and I'm grateful for the people that were in my life and for the people that you have to be open to learning. And I think that's the biggest thing. You really have to, keep an open mind. Yeah.
I think that one of the things that, back to the point of, it takes a village, is we've been fortunate in our industry. If you put the time in and you put the training in, that the culture and the brotherhood and the sisterhood can kind of set you up for success if you take advantage of it. And with that said, forecasting in the future, what excites you in your current leadership role about apprenticeship and workforce development?
Just this new opportunity, really, that we're preparing not only apprentices to be journey persons, but now we're looking at project managers, building owners, or contractors, owners of companies. It's a bigger vision now. Before, we were always working to make sure we qualified as journey persons, but we're opening up the footprint to say, hey, you could be a project manager, you could be an estimator. The sky's the limit. Superintendents on multi-billion-dollar projects.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great point. Allowing people to have the platforms for growth. We're kind of setting that up as we go.
Yes.
And even just the innovative things that we've been doing with the contractor entrepreneurship, that's all grassroots. That's all within the last couple of years of, hey, there's people dropping the keys and walking away. We want to make sure that we're fruitful for years to come.
Yeah.
And so, allowing a member to think, hey, I can reach bigger, I can do this on my own, is something that we want to make sure that they're in control of, and we'll give them the access to have the tools to do so. So, thanks for your help in making all those platforms happen for us.
No, it's teamwork. It works with CCT, with council, with our board members. It's everybody, working together.
Sure. If you could change one thing about what's happening in the construction industry, what would it be?
Well, we're always asked to increase our numbers for apprenticeship, right? We have wonderful schools. We invest a lot of funding into those facilities. I think the one thing would be to have more projects to go after, and I think the one thing I would ask for is a level playing field, and get rid of the contractors that are getting rich off of people's backs. We're in this together, grow the industry together, and that would create more opportunity for kids coming out of high school to get into an apprenticeship program. If you have somebody who's paying into your tax base, who's paying into your school taxes, why not have them work on your school? Why not have them build your hospital? And that's the kind of thing that we have. A lot of responsible contractors that really believe in what they do, and they are proud to pay the benefit structure that we have, and they were fortunate enough that people fought for us to have. And I think that would be, having that level playing field would be the one thing I think would really help everyone.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think, that one missing component that we always talk about in the industry is we don't necessarily have an issue with people wanting to get into trades. Yeah. We see it, right? There's actually an overabundance of people wanting to get in. And when we're talking to community leaders, our contractors, and folks that see the value in what we do and what training brings to the table, they're always like, we need more, we need more, we need more. Yeah. But they're missing that one piece is you can't bring people in and train them and disenfranchise them if there's no jobs at the end of the tunnel. And that's the missing component. So I'd have to agree. If we had the capacity, we could bring in hundreds of thousands, right? I just know in our jurisdiction, we talk about it all the time, just in our jurisdiction, we had 16,000 people try to get in over a 2-year period. We're lucky if we brought in a couple thousand, right? So there really is an opportunity out there if we can address the fact that more good paying middle class jobs for people that are from the community and have the skills and qualifications to make them productive.
Absolutely.
That's a great opportunity.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, and we have 4,300 apprentices throughout our regional council right now. We'd love to grow that to 5,000, then to 6,000, and keep it going.
Yeah,
it'd be wonderful. That's how many families and lives you're impacting.
Oh yeah, it's generational change, generational
Absolutely.
wealth, community change, and
And something that Anthony and I are really trying to get out there in community and show where our partnership is valuable. So that's one of the reasons this podcast was developed. Really is to help people understand that we're partners in growth for communities. And so, we're happy to have you on, and
Yeah.
happy to work with you on a daily basis.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah.
I got to ask you one more thing. And you've seen the success of the organization since we've come under new leadership, we've expanded our footprint. But how would you define personal and professional success?
I'm a big person on a team concept, right? So when I go, you don't realize it day to day, I don't think. But when I was on a call on the way up here today and talking with various directors from the Eastern District, and they were saying that we just had a third-year program out in Vegas at our training center last week, and they said they got compliments.
Can you define a third-year program for those that don't know what a third-year
Yeah,
program is?
yeah. So a third-year program is a leadership program, talking about direction and structure out at our international training center in Las Vegas, and it's enticed to support the third-year apprentice, to answer questions that they may have, to lead to mentoring when they come back, and mentorship when they come back. So these kids went out to the third-year program, and they said, "Wow, the Eastern District really has really good kids coming out, and the apprentices are really nice to see, and a joy to have here." And they're like, "Well, why would that be?" Well, we made changes on our interview process. So you brought up about this is just in one thing you can say measurable success. You brought up about if you can climb a ladder, right? Well, we changed that question on the interview process to want to know about people. So tell us about a time when you had to do something. We use a STAR interview process. So that kind of process engages the person to kind of answer a question with a story. So you want to know about that. So we started doing that about 4 or 5 years ago, and now you start to see the fruits of that labor. So and that's success, right? So, and success is walking down the street when you see somebody who you coached or you taught at school, right? Yeah, Cyndie, you may have had them at your Edison Job Corps or when you're teaching in Edison, and Anthony is somebody who you mentored, and they come up to you and say, "Wow, thank you so much." That's leadership, and that's success to me. Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
we appreciate you really taking the time today. It was extremely
absolutely.
insightful. Obviously, there's endless work to do on all fronts, and you're part of that
Thank you.
success. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Cindy.
Rob.
Yep.
As always, it's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to work with you.
Yeah, it's us with me as well. Thank you.